I didn't realize it at the time. That's when the primal mindset is born. That's when the primal mindset is born. That's when the primal mindset is born. This is the Primal Mindset. I am Chris Fontana. I'm coming to you from Long Island, New York. Before we get to today's show, I just want to give a shout out to a few of my sponsors. We got Proof No More, premier marketplace for all non-alcoholic craft beverages, consisting of non-alcoholic beers, wines, mocktails, spirits, mixes. Coming up on 5 years of sobriety, I enjoy a nice cold Lomza. It's alcohol-free lager-style beer. Check them out at proofnomore.com. Use code CF, no proof 10% off. Also, Eat Better Meals, food delivery service here on Long Island. Man, this is nutritious, delicious, packed with protein. I absolutely love this. The meals are already pre-made, no cooking involved. Very, very convenient. Check them out, eatbettermeals.com. Go Primal 25 gets you 25% off your first order. Go Primal 10% after that. So check them out. All right, let's get to today's show. We got our guest, Chris Rubio of Rubio Long Snapping. Guy's an absolute legend when it comes to training long snappers in football. Has camps all over the country. Students that go on to D1 colleges. Some go on to the NFL. He's host of the Rubio Method podcast. You can check him out on rubiomethod.com. Funny dude. And here we go. So, yeah, you said you got a player that's playing tonight?
Yeah, I have. I used to have the Broncos guy for a long time, but Tyler Ott, the starting long snapper for the Seahawks, just hurt his shoulder. They're not revealing too much because they don't want to tell everyone.
Right.
But they have Carson Tinker, who last year was on the Rams. Before that's been on Tampa Bay. He's been all over the place. Jacksonville, kind of just a nomad, and he came in on, I think, Tuesday for the practice squad, and immediately is bumped up. So that's good for him.
Nice. Yeah, I was kind of interested in the story that got you into long snapping. It was pretty cool actually to hear that, because it's not your normal position that you go out for, and that you actually not only go out for but become so good at it, where, like, as we heard, you're considered a legend in the coaching aspect of it. So yeah, man, just it'd be cool to kind of just hear that story so the audience can hear it again.
So I grew up in Los Angeles, California, right around there, a little suburb called Covina, Covina. It's about 20 miles east of LA, 20 miles north of Disneyland. That's the easiest way to explain it. And I grew up single mom, kind of involved in all sports, kind of really involved in sports. I was the guy who, like, every Christmas I would get a Nerf football, and I would keep the plastic on it as long as possible so it lasted longer and longer and longer. And I grew up, around a football family. My uncle was the varsity head coach at the local school, and my cousin was his son, was the offensive coordinator. So I knew a lot about football, but it was one of those things I just kind of didn't really watch it. I just was always there. I was a ball boy and all that good stuff. And everyone would always say, okay, Rubio, you're big. I was big for my age. And you're going to play. So, okay. In California, first grade, second grade, I was just playing flag football because that's what everyone did. And I didn't know any different. And so by third grade, I was like, okay, I'm going to go play tackle football. And I go to sign up for tackle football. And in California, everything is done by weight. So if you're a 100-pounder, you play with other 100-pounders. If you play with, if you're 30 pounds, or not 30 pounds, but 80-pounder, you play with that 80-pounders. Doesn't matter the grade. And where I live in Idaho right now, everything is done by age. So my son right now plays with 11 and 12-year-olds. He's 11 and 12. And they just have rules that if you're over 140 pounds, you just can't run the ball because you're going to just truck everyone. It's like a damn diesel running down the highway, which it's actually a really smart rule. And it gets the younger kids used to playing in pads, because the parents and kids, and I help coach, always tell them, you're not going to get the big ESPN hits. Like, you think you're going to see this, oh my God, he's going to get decapitated. What am I going to do? It's basically just like two weeble wobbles and like dominoes. One kid hits one kid, they kind of just fall over. It's like a herd of bees. And so I go to play my third grade year, and they say, Rubio, you can play, no problem, but you're going to play with 8th graders. So, I'm 7 or 8 years old, chance to go play with 14 to 15-year-olds. I'm going to die. So I give my mom the puppy dog eyes of, I don't want to do this. She goes, okay, Christopher, you don't have to do it. And so I played flag from that point on. So by the time I was in 4th grade, I was pretty much outweighed the entire league. So I couldn't play tackle at all. So I go and I play flag football all the way through 8th grade. I was a quarterback. I absolutely loved it. I was slow as hell, but I could throw the ball a quarter mile or like 25 yards. Yeah. So I was considered one of the better ones. And I knew a lot about the game. So I could play linebacker and kind of read the play and all that good stuff. So I do that all the way through my freshman year in high school. To my freshman year in high school, now in high school, you can be as big as you want. The bigger you are, the stronger you are, the heavier you are, the meaner you are, the better. So I go to the first day of freshman football. It's basically summertime in California. It's hot. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And I'm probably 5'10", 250 at the time. And they said, Rubio, what position do you want to play? I said, obviously I want to be quarterback. And they looked at me like an alien just flew out of my head. Like, what are you talking about? And I go, well, that's what position I've played. Well, you'll never touch a football again a day in your life, bud. And I touch one all the time now because of my job.
Yeah.
And so I went through it, and I had one of those coaches that just yelled and yelled and yelled and yelled. And I'm not the kind of guy that you need to yell at. Just tell me what you want me to do, and I'm going to do it. And the more you yell at me, the more I tune you out. So the more this guy yelled at me, and I was like third string center, I didn't even know what the hell I was doing. The more he yelled at me, all I heard was Charlie Brown's teacher, just wah, 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 wah. And so after my freshman year, I plugged along through it. I remember coming home every single day on my mother, this is the worst thing ever. I hate the sport. I don't know why anyone would play it. The helmet was heavy. The pads were uncomfortable. You're in these 1990s polyester pants, just terrible craftsmanship. And I was fat and out of shape and didn't like it. And so I remember Christmas dinner telling my family, hey, I'm not going to play football next year. And you could have heard a pin drop from a quarter mile away in that house. Like, oh my God, how are you not going to play football? You're big, you're strong, and this is a football family. This is what everyone does. And I go, I'm not doing it. It's stupid. It's a dumb sport. I hate it. So didn't play my sophomore year. I held strong, and it was kind of rough because I saw all the other people playing, and it was like, okay, well, I'm sitting in the bleachers here, and this is kind of weird because I've always played sports. And it was kind of an eye opener too. Like, okay, you're gonna have to get off your ass or not, because either you're going to get used to it or you're going to continue to watch it from the stands, there's nothing wrong with that, but it wasn't for me. And so end of my sophomore year, I was playing catch with a buddy in his front yard, just throwing the football around, having a good time. And then he bends down and snaps the ball like a punt snap. And I'd watched a lot of football in my time, but I'd never seen a human being snap a football, 15-yard punt snap. And I remember going, what the hell was that? And he goes, it's a punt snap, a long snap, deep snap. And I go, what? And I go, do it again. So he does it again. And I go, I can do that. So I just literally got one hand on the ball, and I was an upside down quarterback that went the wrong way. I just threw it as hard as I could. He goes, Rubio, my God, you're phenomenal. I said, who the hell cares? Like, I didn't even think it was a big deal. Like, okay, wonderful. And he says, no, man, do it again. So I did it again, and I was really good at it, I guess. And so I remember just practicing it in the backyard against the tree, because there was no targets or anything invented. Since then, by the way, I haven't invented a target. We'll talk about that later.
All right, nice.
And then I just kind of worked out and got a little bit more in shape and grew into my body. Basically, I was a late bloomer, had a lot of baby fat at the time. And I ended up trying out my junior year, and, we're standing on the line, waiting to see what's next to practice. And as a fat kid, you're always happy when you're standing on the line, because it means you're not running over lines. And so I remember they said, who can snap? Who can snap? Who can snap? And I actually forgot what it was called. And so I'm just standing there, hands behind my back, happy I'm not sweating. And my buddy pushes me in the back, goes, Ruby, that's what you can do. And I go, what can I do? I wasn't paying attention. He goes, you can snap. And I go, and I raised my hand. I go, I can do that. And my uncle was the head coach. He goes, Ruby, you can do that? And I go, yeah. So I get down there, snap the ball, and he goes, good God, you're phenomenal. I said, okay, didn't even think about it. Ended up, you're really, really good. So I worked on it a little bit more my junior and senior year, and ended up getting recruited. I had, basically straight A's. I was really into school. I love school. I love the social aspect of it, talking, but I'm also one of those guys that likes to learn about a lot of different things. Like, I wouldn't say I'm a master of anything, but it's one of those where I like to know a little bit. And like, if you can tell me something about this, I'm going to learn about it. I may not like it later, but I still want to learn about it.
Right.
And so ended up, and this was back when men were men, and you had to be bigger to play long snapper because they were allowed to line up on you and hit you. So my freshman year at UCLA, got recruited, and I was 6'3 3/4, 293. I remember that very specifically. And ended up being the only guy that made the team, and ended up starting and did very, very well. And the rest is history.
Nice, man. Yeah, that's I heard it on a previous podcast you were on. I was like, man, that's pretty funny. You never think, if you got a God-given talent, it's gonna be long snapping.
No, and, God, and I didn't even know about it until my junior year in high school, or basically early junior, late sophomore year, and then it became something that I actually made a business on, which was even weirder.
Well, you made meaning of the shit that happened. You became real good at it, and you're like, I'm gonna run with this. And obviously, you said you went on to college. And what college did you play at?
I went to UCLA. I had
Okay,
offers to UCLA, USC, Cal, Columbia, New York, in your area, and
okay,
Pitzer, and which is a small academic school in California area. And I chose UCLA. Always wanted to go there. It was basically 35 minutes, or not 35 miles from my house, as you know, in traffic. That could be different in LA and New York.
yeah.
And it was a good opportunity for me, and worked out really well.
Right. And were you a starter 4 years or?
I started 3 years, went to 3 bowl games, went to the Rose Bowl, the Aloha Bowl, the Cotton Bowl. I just found out recently that one of my first games at Michigan, I think it was my sophomore year, was actually the first time Tom Brady got into a game at Michigan.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was
Nice.
watching some highlight on ESPN, and they're like, Tom Brady's first game, he comes in the third or fourth quarter, because they were kicking our ass all up
Yeah,
and down the
yeah,
field. And he gets in, and I go, that's me. Like, there's a pan on the side. I go, that's number 64. That's me right there.
yeah.
Holy crap. And I had no idea. I mean, no one knew who Tom Brady was at that time, but it was
Right,
it was
right.
it was very unique playing in all those big stadiums and traveling. And that's what I miss the most now, because I have 3 boys, one 11-year-old who's just an 11-year-old having a good time, and I have two 20-year-olds. One plays defensive line at WSU, Washington State University, and one plays long snapper at Cal Poly, San Luis Obispo. And I always talk to them about the traveling is the part that you really remember. Yeah, it's fun in the game and all that tackling and all that good stuff. But I swear to God, you miss more just the locker room BS and making fun of everybody, and, the bus rides and all that good stuff.
Yeah, that being part of a team, the camaraderie, that's like, especially for a man, dude, that's something that you end up, I think, missing the most when you like, I know for me, like after high school and I didn't play any more sports, you miss that, and obviously
Oh,
after college, I'm sure you miss that as well. And I think when men kind of lose that, that's kind of, I think, something that definitely affects them. And we'll get into a little bit more of that with the NGBN community
mhm.
that we're kind of starting up. But I don't want to stray too far from your college experience. Once you graduated college, was it right into coaching, or was there kind of
No,
like a lull period where you didn't know what the hell you were gonna do? Like, what the fuck am I gonna do now?
no, I always knew what I was gonna do. It was one of those. I
Yeah.
had all my family were coaches and teachers, and so I hung out with them obviously a lot. Tight knit Italian family, and I remember thinking to myself, by third grade, I remember thinking, I'm going to be a teacher. That's what I want to do. I can do it, because I remember hanging out with my just being in classrooms and seeing teachers teach something to someone and going, I could explain this better. I know I can. I know I can. And teaching is just basically storytelling. And I like to
Mm.
tell a good story, and obviously I can talk. And so it's one of those things where I became, in my junior year in college, I hurt my back pretty damn bad, where basically crushed my L1, L2, and L3 disc, and L4 and L5 swung out to the left. And so that made my senior year really fun, where basically I was wearing a wetsuit that would have fit, Gary Coleman, but I had to keep everything in.
Yeah.
And I was just so tight. And I was probably 280 at the time. And they basically said, snap and don't move, just kind of be in the way. And so by the time I was a senior, I was getting looked at by some teams, and I go, I'm not even putting my name in the draft. I'm done. I want to be able to, at some point, I know I'm going to have kids, and I'd
Mhm.
like to be able to lift them up at some point. And so right out of college, I became a middle school teacher. And my first assignment was a long-term freshman algebra sub. And I remember it was the worst teaching assignment I had, but it was also the best, because I'm terrible at math. Everyone's got their gift. Math is not my gift. I can do adds and subtractions and multiplication and division, but once you get into the X's and J's and all that crap, I'm out. I just
Yeah.
doesn't. It's like a foreign damn language to me. And so I remember they made this class because there's too many students in the algebra classes. So they went to all the teachers, and imagine what you would say. If I said, Fontana, man, I'm coming to you, you're an algebra teacher, I need 7 students to go to a new class. Which 7 students would you pick? You would pick the 7 worst. You'd be like, get them out.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
want the 7 worst. And so that's what I had. I had 5 periods of just kids that didn't like algebra like me, didn't want to be at school, but it was great because it taught me, all right, Rubio, if you're going to come in, you got to come in hot and you need to learn how to handle these kids because it's not going to get any worse than this. And I'm at this point, they're freshmen. They're like 14, 15 years old, which is pretty much the height of moronness at that puberty zone.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I was at that point, I think 23, 22. So I'm not that much older than them, but I had to learn on the fly how to handle classrooms and how to handle kids. And I think that made me a much, much better teacher in the long run, a much better coach as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I mean, I think hands down the best way to learn something is on the job training. And
Oh God, yeah.
and when you start something hard, or I think that's also the best way, because you're only going to get easier from that. I like when things are hard personally. It just makes life easier.
Yeah.
So I'm in the kind of the same boat as you. Like, yeah, give me, I'll take the hard. That's fine.
Yeah, and it was one of those things that once I did that class, those 5 classes for, I think it was a whole semester, so I said 5 months. After that, then I became a 6th grade history teacher, and everyone thought, oh, 6th grade, that's so hard. They're 11, 12 years old. What are you going to do? Blah, blah, blah. I love that. I thought it was great because they were mature enough to where they could handle life, but they were young enough to where you could almost put the fear of God in them real quick by looking at them.
Yeah.
And I'm not exactly a fluffy looking human being when I'm not smiling. So it's one of those things where I absolutely loved it. And I mean, I had one group where we would teach, there was 4 groups of us, and we a lot of times bring the whole group together. So it'd be like 180 students in one class. And we would, all 4 of us teachers would be going after them. And I loved it. I thought it was great.
Nice. How long were you a teacher for? Or 6th grade?
I was a teacher for about 8 years. And about halfway through that, I got a call from Chris Saylor, Sailer. And he was the guy who I snapped to at UCLA. And so I always joke around, he's seen my butt more than anybody. Just because he's always looking at the balls coming right there.
Yeah.
And he called me and said, hey, Rubio, I know you're teaching, but and we kept in contact. Because obviously as specialists out in the football field, everyone else is, practicing real stuff. And we kind of practice for 5 minutes, and then we kind of walk around and just kind of look at things and talk about things. And so we kept in contact, good buddies. He says, Rubio, I need you to help me. I go, what do you need, Saylor? He says, I'm running a Vegas camp. I need long snappers there. I just need you to basically facilitate that. I'll get the kids there. There'll be like 15 kids, 12 kids. I just need you to babysit and kind of monitor them. I go, man, I don't know. I haven't, I really don't want to go to Vegas. I'm teaching. I'm kind of locked in here. This thing. He goes, I'll pay for your food and flight and hotel. I said, I'm in. Let's go. And so I ended up going, and there was like probably 12 to 15 kids. And it was just me babysitting and showing him some little tips and tricks. And after that weekend, he says, you should do this. And I go, do what? What the hell are you talking about? He goes, you should teach long snapping. And I go, who the hell is going to pay for that? It's the weirdest damn thing in the world. No one even knows. He goes, you got a personality, you know how to talk, and you obviously have done it big time. So go ahead and try it. And so I was like, okay, whatever. And they had 1 lesson for the first 6 months. Then 2 lessons per month, then 3. And then it got bigger and bigger and bigger. So I'm running about 20 camps per year.
Wow.
I've had over 1,000 long snappers go to college in the NFL. And like tonight on Monday Night Football, I have one of my guys playing.
Yeah. Yeah, man. That's an amazing story. And it's definitely like one, it's something that I think gives people, a lot of hope, where, man, you never know where you're going to find your niche. Just keep going. And you definitely proved that, man. I love it.
Yeah, and it's one of those things too, exactly like you said, Fontana, like you never know what your niche is going to be. And it's also at some point you have to take a leap, take a step. What do they always say? The hardest step in faith is the first step or something like that. Because I look back, and I was about 30, 31, I think at the time, where it was, okay, I have my teaching job. I've been doing it for 8 years at this point. I had insurance, which is an adult. That's a big thing. I had a steady paycheck, which is a big thing. I was living close to my family, all that good stuff. And I said, I'm going to quit teaching just to become a full-time long snapping instructor. And I remember several members of my friends and family were like, dude, what are you doing? Like you're 30, 31 years old. You got stability going here. You kind of probably shouldn't do this move. And I was like, I feel like I can do it, man. And I saw so much more freedom and opportunity. Because with teaching is a phenomenal occupation for those that do it correctly. But it's one of those things you can only do so much, because if you have, say, you don't get bonuses, you get maybe a high five and a new pack of pencils or something like that, but you don't get the rewards. I mean, your rewards are kids graduating and going on and doing bigger and better things. But it was a hard time, but I'm glad I did it.
Nice. How long So when you got that first student, you said to the point where you said, I'm quitting full time, like teaching and doing this full time.
It was about 4 years. It was
Okay.
4 years. It started real slow, and then it became just too much. Where I was, waking up early in the morning. Then I would be working on long stepping stuff from, let's say, 5:30 to 8 o'clock. Then I would
Mhm.
teach from 8 to 3:30. Then from 4 to 7, I'd be doing long stepping stuff, and it was just like, this is impossible. I mean, I didn't have a quote unquote day off for months and months and months, because on Saturdays and Sundays I'd be doing lessons,
Right.
in different spots, and it was just, I gotta figure something out here, or I'm just gonna burn out.
And you were just primarily, I guess, high school kids in your area
It
in
was
the beginning.
it kind of just started spreading. It was one of those things where you work with one kid, and then he gets good, and there's an article, and a paper gets written about him, and he's working with this guy named Chris Rubio of
Mhm.
rubiolongsnapping.com. And then someone else calls, says, hey, I'd like to have my kid try it. I'd like to have my kid try it. And it kind of just snowballed from there. I mean, I sent out some basic, Microsoft Word letters to local high schools and stuff like that, but I had no influence. I had no reputation yet. It was just some guy who's trying to do this. Maybe bring your kid, see how he likes it, do it, blah, blah, blah. But then once the success started to happen, that's when it started to, really become like a blob, where it just got bigger and bigger and bigger,
Mhm.
and kind of just overtook everything.
Nice. And you still got 20 camps around? Is it around the whole country that you have them?
Oh yeah, I'll
How does
be
it?
in New Jersey, Chicago, Charlotte, Atlanta, Vegas, Dallas, Seattle, Salt Lake City. I think that's all of them. And I do that about 2 to 3 times per year.
And is it you running the camp, or you got people to help you
It's
out,
the
or
it's the majority me running the camp. Certain times there's times I can't make it to a camp. Like for instance, San Francisco, I have something other thing already planned, so I'll send one of my senior instructors, some basically a long snapper that's gone through me, who's been to literally 50 camps, but 99.9% of the time it's me. And then say I'm running a camp in North Carolina, I'll contact my long snappers that are in that area, the Wake Forest long snapper, the North Carolina long snapper, the North Carolina State long snapper, say, hey, I'm doing a camp. Can you guys come help me? And they'll, yeah, we'll come out and help you. And it's good for them too, because the younger kids get to see a college kid, and they get to kind of brag about them a little bit and all that
yeah,
good stuff. So
yeah.
it pumps up their ego, and it's good times. It's fun.
Nice. And how many kids usually at a camp at a time?
It depends on the location. The bigger the football-y area, so
Hmm.
like obviously in the South and Texas, I mean, there could be upwards of 50, maybe even more at a camp. And then, get Seattle, where it's maybe not as much football, but it's like 20, 25, 30. It just depends on the area, and the time of year and things like that. But it kind of moves up and down, but it's right around 50 is usually the number.
Nice. And you say you obviously you have you do high school kids that go on to some pretty legit D1 schools, and then
Mhm.
eventually even the NFL. I was curious that were you ever approached from any colleges or NFL teams to be like a special coach for long snapping?
Yeah, when about 5 years ago, 5 to 10 years ago, we were allowed to run college camps for the colleges, their special teams camps. And
Hmm.
it was great because most colleges coaches don't know anything about long snapping. They know about X's and O's and how to block the kick or have the punt not blocked and how to get downfield. But if you ask them, okay, this kid's ball spirals wobbly, how do you fix it? Call Rubio,
All
which is
right.
fine.
Yeah.
But and then NCAA said we're not allowed to do that anymore. So yeah, so can't do that. But yes, I have been approached before to be, a special coach. And it's like those coaches, they are just so dedicated, and their schedules are so crazy. There's just no way I could do it. I could not do it after being a part of it at UCLA, and then
Mhm.
I talk to coaches all the time, and I know their schedule. I'm like, dude, there's no way I could do that.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much all you hear is the NFL coaches have no lives at all. Like they pretty
Yeah.
much live at the stadiums, and
Mhm.
yeah, I was just curious to see at what point did the legend status get to the point where where NFL coaches are like, yo, we got to have him on our team, man. We need him. So, but I mean, I that to do your own thing, to be your own boss, to make your own schedule, I think is triumphs over any type of money that they're gonna throw at you. So yeah, that's pretty cool, man, that
Oh,
you were able to
100%.
turn
But
that.
and the hardest part about that, yeah, and the hard part about that is, yes, you get to set your own schedule, you get to be your own boss, and you could take 10 days off. Sure. Yeah, but if you take 10 days off, guess what? That's 10 days someone else is working.
Yeah.
That's 10 days that you're not making money. That's 10 days you're not supporting your family. That's 10 days that you're not advancing.
Mhm.
So it's one of those things that once you start your own business and start doing your own thing, it's very hard to take time off and really let your body relax, let your mind relax. Cause I'm one of those guys that when I wake up, I was like, and I'm always thinking, okay, what am I going to do today? What
Yeah,
do I have planned?
yeah,
What am I going to do? How do I do more than one thing at once?
right. Yeah, if you get that mind just starts racing sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. Have you ever had like a player once they went to college or even in the NFL maybe come to you in the off season and be like, yeah, I need, to private lessons or whatever you want to call it, just coaching in the off season? Have you ever done
Oh
like
yeah.
one-on-one with some NFL players?
Oh yeah. And that's what the majority of my business is. Yes, I run the camps, but I also do private lessons out where I live in Northern Idaho. I have
Hmm.
this big office shop. It's basically like a garage on steroids.
Yeah.
And I do a lot of lessons there. And the college kids and NFL kids are easier because they are, I always describe them like they're like a very, very fine car. So say they're like a Bentley or a Lamborghini or a Rolls Royce or, heavy Mercedes, something like that, where there's not a lot to clean up. It's not like I'm dropping in a new axle or a new engine. It's usually, oh, they just needed some windshield wiper fluid
Yeah,
or they
yeah.
needed their tire pressure adjusted, where it's very, very quick fixes. They just got a little rusty because they haven't had someone yelling at them the entire time and they couldn't just fall into this groove of, oh, this must be the right way because it's the way I'm doing it. And so it's usually like I've had a lot of college kids, they'll come in because there's only like 2 or 3 flights that come in for me where I live. And they'll come in like at 11 o'clock flight AM. I work with them from 12 to 2, and they'll take the 4 o'clock flight out. And within that 2 hours, I got them. It's like,
Yeah,
okay, there you go. Boom, boom, boom. Your thumb was doing this. Your head was doing this.
yeah.
Your butt was doing this. Your ankles were doing this. Your knees were doing that. They're like, how did you see that? I'm like, dude, I've done this a billion times. And whatever your job is, say it's not football, say it's whatever.
Right,
I could
right.
ask you the same question. Like, what the hell? How'd you know that? Well, I've done it 12 billion times,
Yeah,
dude.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, um, just kind of switch gears a little bit because I believe Ian Hill, who's reached out to me at some point, who's kind of the man behind the NGBN men's network and all that, and I know he reached out to you for I think a different purpose, and that was he wanted to be the oldest player in in college football as a long snapper. So who does he reach out to? He reaches out to the legend, Chris Rubio. So yeah, kind of talk about that, how Ian kind of reached out to you.
I get this email from this guy named Ian Hill, and he basically gives me a little quick bio on him. He's does this, does that, and then he says, "Hey, I'm a 56-year-old man. I'm going to be starting something called the Season to Save a Life. I want to become the oldest Division I football player, and I want to be a snapper. I know nothing about it, and I want you to teach me." And so I respond back, thinking to myself, "This has got to be a joke from someone that knows me." And I respond back with, "Okay, sounds like a plan. I need to talk to you on the phone first because I wanted to see if it was one of my buddies messing with me."
Yeah,
So I said, "Let's set up a call." He calls me a couple days later and we talk, and I can hear the passion in his voice. And, the main reason why he's doing it. Yes, he wants to play football. He wants to be the oldest man to do it, but he's doing it all for the season to save a life.org. And it's one of those, just if he can save one man's life, because it's basically about middle-aged men and how when they go from age 45 or 40 to 70, 75, it's a shit show
yeah,
and no one knows what's happening. I mean, and the more I started reading up on it, because I didn't know anything about it, and then I started doing my research and realizing, good God, this is a storm here. We got to figure this out. And just about, you're getting closer to retirement. You've been married, you haven't been married, you've got empty nester, you all of a sudden want to switch jobs, you're not sure, your mind's starting to race, your testosterone may be going lower,
mm-hmm.
things like that. And it was like, okay, I'm on board, and let's do this. And he's been great because he's got the will and drive of a teen. He's coachable like a college kid, but he's got the adult mindset of, okay, I want to get better at this.
Right,
Whereas
right.
a teen, sometimes they're like, I know I need to get better, so I'm going to listen to you, but I'm still kind of not really paying attention.
Yeah,
Where Ian, he had the complete package of where he had all three. It was like, so everything took about a fifth of the time that it would take for normal people. So like within one day, we had the spiral down and somewhat of the form. By day 2, it was more of that. And I've seen him probably, God, 5 or 6 times up in Idaho where I live. And every time we just create a little chart of, okay, what are you going to do now? How are you going to get better? And it's so easy to teach it because he's so responsive.
right. Yeah, and I know he's had a few tryouts, correct?
Yeah, he's had basically two tryouts. One, he had a little bit issues getting to, but his name is out there. And everyone is always just like, is this a real thing, Rubio? And
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, this is a real thing, man. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, he can do it. And it's going to be really good for just not only him and the cause, but for the program as well. Look, man, look what we got here. Look what we're doing. It's not like we're, raising money for strawberries. This is raising,
Right.
raising awareness for men's mental health.
Yeah. And you kind of alluded to it before, men in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, which I actually, before I talked to Ian, I had no idea either that was the highest suicide rate was
Yeah.
men in that age group. And I was kind of shocked too. And I felt like I went through my midlife crisis probably in my 20s, because that's kind of like when I went through all my, depression, anxiety, and just self-loathing, and just being like overweight, and just basically like, where's my life going? Where look where I was, and just focusing on the past too much, not knowing what the future was going to be. I wasted my life. I'm going to die young. Like all these things, going along in my 20s to really to my early 30s. And now I'm 43, so now I definitely can relate to that age group, 40s, 50s, and 60s. So yeah, I was shocked when he told me that, and he saw my story on LinkedIn and kind of reached out to me and said, "I am starting this men's network," and really, like, it's been great since, and especially meeting people like you who are on board with that and really just want to bring awareness to men's mental health, because so many guys feel like they can't talk to it. I mean, to this day, still, like, I'm involved in some Facebook groups, and every once in a while, or you get like a new member coming in and being like, I've never talked to anyone before. I know, like, I think it's, I don't want to be looked at as weak or whatever, however you want to perceive it. And like, basically, you tell the person, that's normal, man. You can feel that way. Everyone feels that way. And just don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Just let us know. Talk, man. You can talk to anyone. Doesn't make you weak at all. And like, when I finally was able to be vulnerable, I always say, like, through vulnerability, I found strength. I found confidence, man. Cause that's when I was finally able, just broke down and be like, fuck it, I need help, man. I can't handle this shit anymore. That's when everything changed for me. So, and that's what I think we want to bring to the network, to just, like you said, man, if we can save one life every day, man, that's the goal.
Absolutely. And I think with the NGBN network, it's how, like I said before, and I've said with you guys in our meetings and all that, how it's just such a wide variety of dudes and females. Ruta, shout out.
Yeah.
But it's so a wide variety where you're going to have you kind of going through the experience, 20s and 30s, and you got we're talking about it, going through it. And then you got me, who I don't know what the hell's happening, but I'm a big enough ass to just talk about anything, and I don't care. If you want to argue with me, we'll argue all day long. I don't care.
Yeah.
But I'm willing to one of those guys that is willing to learn, and I'm willing to admit that I don't know something. And when I moved up to Idaho, that was one of the funniest things, that I had no idea that they're very manly men out here. We're talking hunting, car fixing, and all that good stuff, and outdoors. And growing up with a single mom in Los Angeles, that's not exactly, fit for that. And so they were just amazed. I have so many friends out here. They're like, dude, you say the words, "I don't know," more than any human being possible.
Yeah.
And I go, okay. And they're like, what do you want to say? I literally don't know. I go, how do you want me to learn? And so they kind of make fun of me, but just kind of love it, because they've never heard a dude say, I don't know, teach me. And they're like, you're really going to ask how to do it? Yeah. How the hell else do you think I'm going to figure it out?
Yeah.
I don't care. And they'll, they always make fun of me about, oh God, you're coming from LA. You got all these layers on. I go, call me whatever you want. Call me a sissy. You're never going to call me cold. I'll learn. I'll get 19 hand warmers. I'll put them everywhere on my body. I don't give two craps. I'm learning.
Yeah, I mean, it's isn't it cold enough? I mean, the only thing I know about Idaho is the fucking potatoes, right? Don't have good
That's
potatoes?
what everyone says.
Yeah.
Where I live in the lowest elevation in Idaho, so we only get like 2 inches of snow per year. It gets cold.
Okay.
I mean, compared to Los Angeles, my God.
Yeah.
And obviously I don't have any hair, so I got beanies, I got electric hats, I got electric gloves, electric socks, and everyone makes fun of me because I literally don't care that you're making fun of me.
Yeah.
You can't offend me. I don't care. And I think that's kind of what helps me out and makes my show a little interesting, is that I don't care. I don't get offended. And it's one of those that you want to talk about it, we'll talk about it. I don't care.
Nice. Yeah. And the show, that the Rubio method, which is your podcast, which is definitely, and even just listening to a few episodes, I can sense that right away about you, that that's your personality. And
I am what I am. My wife always makes fun of me because you're such an acquired taste. Sometimes she'll say, can't you just turn yourself down a little bit? And I'm like, I really can't. This
Yeah.
is it. If I turn it down, it's going to be like that. Then it's not me. I just have to. She goes, sometimes, it's okay just not to talk. I don't know about that.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean it's genuine, so that's what people want. That's what it attracts people to shows like that, man. It's just someone who's genuine and that you can relate to pretty much.
Yeah.
And I think you said it, like if you try to dial it down, it just comes off as just fake,
Yeah.
and I, you always hear that saying, fake it till you make it. And I was never really big into that. Like I think humility is a much better way for men. Like you were saying, if you don't know something, say it.
Yeah.
You'd be
What
like,
do
I
I
don't
care?
know, or I need help. Yeah, I don't know I don't know what that is.
Yeah. I'm definitely not a fake it till I make it. I'm more of just I'm going to go. And if you don't like it, then that's cool. My
Yeah,
grandfather, before he passed, this is 20 years ago, he used to always say, Christopher, big, powerful, huge Italian man. Christopher. As soon as you find out someone does not like you, that is one of the best days of your life. And I'm like, okay. He goes, then you don't have to be nice to them. It's just someone you don't have to talk to.
yeah,
I was like, oh, okay. I guess it makes sense, man.
yeah,
It's one of those things that I've taken hold of. Like, okay, this person doesn't like me. Okay, I got it. I'm not going to adjust for you. This is who I am. Sorry. I'm
yeah.
not going to, grow my hair out and part it and dye it
Yeah.
blonde. This is it.
Yeah. And I think I'm the exact same way. Like if someone doesn't like me or vice versa, sometimes there's people I just don't like, I just don't talk to them. I don't ignore them.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be an asshole to them. I'm not going to fucking say shit to them. Or, if someone doesn't like me, I'm not going to say, oh, how come, man? What all right.
Yeah.
It is what it is, and I just kind of distance myself from those people. And I'm just at the point where I don't need any negativity in my life, man. This is me. You don't like it. All right.
Yeah. And I have this weird, I don't know if it's a symptom or something or disease or something. As soon as I get someone out of my life or I find out they don't like me, it's almost like they're just out, like they're
Yeah.
dead. Where I've had a friend of a friend of a friend or acquaintance that I found out this person did not like me, and I was like, okay, did no skin off my back. I don't hang out with this person. They just don't like my attitude or whatever. And we've been to places where this person was, and I don't know what they look like anymore. Like I've literally just blurred them out of my mind, where it's almost like a glaucoma spot where I just
Right.
don't even see
Yeah.
them. And they're like, oh, person X was there. I'm like, I didn't even notice them. They're like, they were right next to you for an hour. I go, oh, I just don't even care.
Yeah. I think that's a pretty good quality. I like that. I think also I read too that you made an award for long snappers for was that in a college award for
Yeah. So I'm obviously involved in long snapping a lot and speak to a lot of other long snappers. And they have, the Lou Groza Award for the top kicker. And then they have the Ray Guy Award for the top punter. And it drove me insane that how do you have an award for a kicker and a punter, but not the guy who literally delivers the ball for them? Without the long snapper, they can't do anything.
yeah.
You're never gonna have a great punt without a great snap. You're never having a game-winning kick without a game-winning snap. And so I got together with Kevin Gold, who is an agent for long snappers and amongst other things out in Pennsylvania. He writes longsnap.com. He's very into long snappers. And then we contacted Patrick Manley, who played for the Bears for 16 years and was possibly the best long snapper in the history of the game. And I just came with my passion and my emotion. I was like, enough. We got to fix this. I'm tired of this shit. I'm done with it. Us three, if we can't get it together, no one's going to get it together. And so we put our heads and our resources together, and we got it done to where now it's going into its 4th or 5th year. The Patrick Manley Award for top college long snapper in the country. It's got sponsored basically by Bernie's Book Bank out in Chicago, Illinois. They've done a phenomenal job promoting it. We've had 3 out of the 4 years, or 2 or 3. I can't remember how many years it is, but every year except for one, we've had an in-house banquet. Think like the Heisman Trophy, and they've done a great job with it. Only year we had to do virtual, and it was still fantastic when the Rona was really strong. And it's grown every single year, and it would not surprise me to have it. It's going to be on one of those ESPN Home Depot award shows within probably 3 years, because
Nice.
it's one of those things that we've talked to people at that level, and they're like, we were just kind of waiting for someone to do it correctly. You guys obviously have the credibility and the respect to do it. And it's one of those things that it's a no brainer. Like, dude, why has this taken so long?
Yeah. Nice. And what was that target thing you were talking about?
So basically, I was growing up there. Like I said, I was snapping to a tree and went through college and all that good stuff. I was snapping to a fence. I'd even snap in my dorm room. I just turned my bed on its side because I was too lazy to walk outside, and I would just snap it into my bed. And I was eating. I remember I was eating chicken parmesan at an Italian restaurant.
Nice.
And I was just messing around. There was one of those paper napkin places, and I started drawing. I was like, I need to make this target so I can do drills where I can, because the whole time as I'm trying to do camps and lessons, and I have to be 15 yards away from the guy, which is fine. My voice will carry, but sometimes I need them to snap into something so I can be right there to yell at them, closer and say like, no, adjust this, fix this, do that. And so basically I just came up with this target, invented it, and it's being sold at wizardsports.com for the last 17 years. And colleges and NFL teams have it, and high school kids have it. It's a lot easier for parents too, if they don't want to break their fingers once the kids start snapping the ball 50 miles per hour. So it just helps out a lot. It's just one of those things that came off a chicken parm napkin.
Nice, dude. Chicken parm.
love chicken parm.
Yeah. Is it so? How 50 miles is that? How fast a snap goes? 50.
A really good one. You want to be for college level at 15 yards. So as soon as say Fontana snapping the ball, as soon as you move any part of your body, so say your butt twitches, your knees bounce, your ankles move, the ball starts going, to the time it hits the punter's hand should be 0.75 seconds or faster.
Wow.
So it's like, I think it's like 43. Don't ask me to do math, Fontana. I can't.
Yeah.
But it's like 40 to 50 something. But I mean, you can have certain kids that get into the 6s or even the 5s, and that's like just, oh my God, speed. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah. Nice. Awesome, man. And what's the is it rubiomethod.com? chrisrubiomethod.com? What's the
rubiomethod.com. It's on Twitter, Facebook. Obviously, you can email Rubio at therubiomethod.com. And then also, if you're interested in the football, it's rubiolongsnapping.com.
Nice, dude. And you got the Rubio Method on ngbn TV. You available on Spotify too?
Spotify, Amazon, Google, and YouTube.
Nice, man. Well, this was awesome. I'm glad we finally got to talk to each other.
Absolutely.
And looking forward to working with you in the future, man.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good time.